Well, hey, welcome everybody. It is the Show Me Reptile Show. We are here again this week, and we've got a special guest, Jess from Haus Of Le Spood. She is here this week to join us. Welcome, Jess.
Hi. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hi, Jess.
We're so happy to have you. It is heating up here in the Midwest. I think it's 95 degrees on this end today. Jess said it was a little warm up there too, plus working inside with reptiles. And we lost Micky for half a second. I think he's back.
It's too hot.
Yeah.
It's cooking the internet.
Hey, that's no joke. I live out in the middle of nowhere. That happens in real life.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm filming outside today because my kid's inside screaming at Fortnite. So,
Well, the most important things in life have to take place.
absolutely.
You should grab some duct tape out of the show kit and wrap them up.
Just turn the Wi-Fi off.
Yeah, then he's really gonna be bitching.
For everybody.
Yeah. He'll be harassing me every 3 seconds till I turn it back on. So, just outside it is. Sacrifices.
I'll drive by later and knock the telephone pole over. Then you can just blame it on that.
So, Jess, why don't you? We'll jump in here and we'll just let you kind of run with a little introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what kind of animals you keep, and what got you into things.
Yeah. So my name's Jessica. I am based out of Chicago. I am the owner of Haus Of Le Spood. So I specialize in specific on jumping spiders. So mainly I work with religious right now. I also have like the beardies, different jumping spiders. But I keep a ton of reptiles too, like just for personal, not for breeding. A lot of like my business too with the jumping spiders is I'll make enclosures for them. So I work with like the dollhouse ones, and I also do a ton of bioactive enclosures. So I started with just doing the bioactives for the jumping spiders. Now I kind of moved into doing jumping spiders and for tarantulas. And I do like different accessories, 3D printing for like hides for them and things like that. I feel like a lot of my business is like half girly, half like into the spooky thing. But yeah, I mean, I think kind of like all of us, we all liked reptiles and like the spooky bugs and all that stuff when we were younger. And I finally got my tarantula gifted to me at the time by my fiance. So I started off actually with tarantulas, and I got a curly hair and just kind of went from there. Started looking into jumping spiders, and I got a jumping spider, and she ended up being pregnant and laying a sack for me. So when she laid her sack for me, I ended up having a ton of babies, having to do a ton of research. And then I kind of just got into it from there. I would go to my local expos all the time too. Um, and people would see me post like my houses and things like that, just like on like my regular Instagram. They're like, why don't you like try out to do an expo? So one of my friends that was doing expos at the time, Ken from S&J Terrarium, was like, hey, like come to the expo. I'll split my table with you and you can kind of see how it goes. So from there, I took on breeding and yeah, kills all the time. It's probably like one of my favorite things.
Well, that's cool. So how long was it from the time that you had the tarantula before you got into the jumping spiders?
Not long at all. I feel like once you start, you like right away, you start with one, right? And then like not even and within a month, you end up with like 5 different spiders and then you go from
Yeah,
there. So probably like
I think it's the same with anything, with the reptiles and all. It's like, yeah, I'm just gonna have this one snake or this pair of snakes. Yeah,
Spiders are
fine
so
for
much
me.
worse.
it's
The
so
the
much worse. I mean, if you
the,
know any people in like the arachnid community, it's like all the keepers. I don't think I've ever met anybody that has just one tarantula or one spider and jumping spider, anything. Like it literally is like downhill from there. Like I think I had it maybe a month, and then I started getting more tarantulas, got into my jumping spiders, and then like literally the sacks started laying and they start hatching out within like 2 weeks. So yeah, it kind of went from there. And now, like, literally, I have my whole office space from like ceiling to floor with enclosures of tarantulas, jumping spiders, my nursery, things like that. And then my reptiles are downstairs in my reptile room in the basement because I have a ton of different reptiles.
Yeah, I guess
What's
the
your favorite
spiders
reptile?
they do have.
Who's first?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Mickey said, "What's your favorite reptile?" Go ahead. Go ahead with that one.
Favorite reptile. I have a ton of geckos. A ton of geckos. There's some of my favorite, but I mean, I'm kind of all over the place. Like, I'm definitely like to say that I have a little zoo. Um, because I have a ton of crusties, I have a ton of togays, I have a lot of chewies. What else do I have? I have a ton of hog noses. I have a ton of frogs. I love frogs. I have a ton of turtles. I have a tortoise. What else do I have? Jesus. I have a ton of crabs.
Crabs are so much fun.
They're so much fun. I think like nobody really talks about them, right? But there's like okay, like Howie the crab. Like I'm sure everybody knows Howie the crab, right? Like I
Hmm.
have a ton of fun with my crabs. Like they're actually full of personality. They're pretty fun to play with. I like pigeon up their enclosures all the time too. But yeah, I have crabs. What else do I have? Trying to think. I think that's pretty much it for reptiles that I have at the house.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I guess with the spiders, you run into the. It has every bad thing going for it, as far as ending up with more and more and more, making babies multiple times a year, having so many babies, and they're affordable, and people probably gift them to you for free, and
I get a lot of people to like rescues and stuff like that for like people that don't like no longer want to keep their racket or didn't know what they were getting into. And then with like the enclosures and stuff, they're just like so easy to set up and like stack on top of each other. Whereas to like, with reptiles, the enclosures are so much bigger, they take up so much more space, they're a little bit pricier to set up. So many other things go into like UVB lights, things like that. So for definitely, I think the arachnid keepers, it's a lot easier to get so many
yeah,
because you can make so much space. I mean, realistically, like I said, like I have so many enclosures behind me. Like,
yeah. As far as the spiders go, is it the jumping spiders your favorites?
I definitely love the jumping spiders just because so like I don't know, like I love tarantulas, I really, really do. But with jumping spiders, I feel like you can tell their personality, right? Like you can see that something's there. They like to interact with you. I like to say that they're nosy and people watchers because they'll literally be at your enclosure, like trying to watch what you're doing, and they like follow you around. I work from home, and then I also work at the Chicago Reptile House with Brian Potter. Um, so when I'm working from home, like I'll have them out like in little like jumping spider play gyms on my desk. And they'll like literally just like sit there and play. So I just like feel like there's a lot of personality and they actually enjoy being handled. Like obviously every spider's personality is a little bit different, but like with my tarantulas, you'll never really catch me out playing with them all the time. Like there's a few that I like actually handle. Um, but as far as like actually handling and playing with them, my jumping spiders are definitely my favorite. Not just because it's my business. Might be a little biased, but
Yeah, so I don't know a ton about them. Scott's like our insect and spider expert, but so so they actually will like just hang out with you. You don't have to worry about it. Just like splitting and running off into its own corner.
they will hang out with you. So a lot of the times, like they'll wander around and stuff, right? But they don't typically go far. And like, let's say, like, okay, let's say if a baby ever gets out, right? They end up coming back. They know where the food is.
Yeah, so they kind of like they recognize their home and they'll
They
make their way back
recognize
to
their
it.
home for sure. That's how I feel. But yeah, most of the times they're out hanging out, and like if I'll have them on my desk, they'll like literally just hang out on the desk. They don't really go far. Or like let's say like I'm just handling them, or like hang out on my hand for a while. I've even had it where I'm like working and doing something. I'll have them like on my sweater or like my shirt or something. They're just like hanging out there, seeing what's going on. I mean,
I
it's
feel
kind
like
of the same with versicolors, right? Like I had some out earlier today, and they're just kind of hanging out.
I feel like they're like a gateway species. Like I keep sand boas, and I feel like they're the same way. Like even people who are a little bit scared of snakes, like they'll fall in love with something like a sand boa or a hog nose because it's just too cute not to think it is.
They're
So
so cute. Yeah, for sure. I mean, they have like the big old eyes. It looks like they have like a little smile on their face. They have those big lashes. I'm like, come on, it's like a
and plus
girl.
they're fuzzy. I mean they just don't look creepy like some other spiders do.
Mhm.
They're
And
really their own thing.
there's Lucas the spider, which I think blew up the whole jumping spider hobby, you can call it. Everybody loves Lucas.
Everybody loves Lucas. I get a lot of little kids that come to my table, and they'll come and play with the spiders. They'll come look at the enclosures. Like they'll be like, "Oh, it's Lucas from Netflix." I'm like, "Yep." So it definitely was like a good way to get kids into spiders, and I feel like they're also like a gateway to get into different type of spiders, right? And because they're so cute, it kind of allows people that like are scared of arachnids and like tarantulas and different spiders and things like that to kind of take a different perspective on it and open that conversation for like some education on like why these animals are cute, why we should save them, why we shouldn't step on them.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Like, there's literally nothing better than when you can turn somebody that's afraid of it into at least somebody that respects it, even if they're not going to keep it as a pet. The fact that they can respect it and like now they understand, like, okay, yeah, I shouldn't just go stomp at that or throw my shoe across the room or
Yeah.
anything.
I mean, like, I'll literally have my family members, they don't get the spider thing, right? Or any of my reptiles, but they'll like text me and be like, hey, come save your friend. Like, come to the house and like save your friend. So, like, I mean, yeah. And I even have friends like on my personal Instagram and stuff when I'll post stuff. They're like, oh, I would never touch it, but it is cute, not gonna lie. So, I mean, I think it's like a good way to kind of, again, like educate people on why these animals are important, why they're not like horrible, scary creatures like everyone thinks they are.
Yeah, I've gotten to where I've trained some of my friends now that used to freak out and go after snakes with, with the shovel or trying to put out a glue trap or some horrendous thing like that. They now call me and they're like, send me pictures and like, is this something you think you can catch? What is this? Is it going to hurt me? Which obviously no.
Yeah.
The infamous "What is this creature?" Photo message.
Usually it's a blurry picture of the bottom 3 inches of a snake's tail or something. It's like, I can't tell by that picture what that is.
Or it's
Just
mangled.
yeah. Just
Or
be
it's
happy.
all
No one identifies you as a bug expert because then you get all those pictures. It's like a mash thing on the wall. They smash it with a shoe. It's like, what is this? Guts? I don't know what to tell you.
That's what you get for being an entomologist, Scott.
I know.
Yeah, and then the next question: how do I get rid of it?
Uh-huh.
Call me.
Yep.
Well, at least I
That's
think
what's kind of cool.
we're almost done with cicadas.
Yeah, they're wrapping up.
Do you guys have those up in Chicago, Jess? The cicadas?
We do. So they're pretty loud. But I think like these ones, so I don't know, probably not a popular opinion, right? But they're actually really pretty. Like, I don't
They're
know if you
super
guys
pretty.
had a chance to look at them. They're like nice, like pop orange color. They're really pretty. They're super loud, but like actually really pretty. I had one like we worked at the shop today and we had the door open because it was like we obviously keep it pretty warm in there because of the reptiles, so we had the door open and a bunch like flew in. One like flew in my hair. I was like, oh, these are actually pretty. Like, pick them up, put them outside.
Do you guys deal with people trying to feed the cicadas to their reptiles? Because we deal with that down here like every day.
We do. I just try to tell them to stick to like their regular routine diets. Like,
It's like, buy dubia roaches.
Yeah, it's honestly like I'm like, please try to stick to their like diets. It's kind of the same thing like with jumpers where people are like, well, I just like let them catch like, and I'm like, no, like you don't know what like they have. Like, please don't feed like wild feeders. Like,
Yeah, they only come out once every 13 years, so we don't even know if it's healthy to feed it to them. But also, God only knows what they're carrying.
yeah, that
Yeah.
exactly. So I mean, like I rather always like to, and I always suggest it like better safe than sorry. Like I'm really particular with what I feed.
I remember I had a mantis one time that was going really good for about 3 weeks, and all of a sudden it was just dead in the enclosure. And I'm like, oh man, that sucks. Well, whatever. And notice there's a fly buzzing around in the enclosure. It's a parasitic fly that lives in mantids and then emerges like a chest burster as an adult. So you just never know what can be inside all these different little insects and arthropods and all that stuff. It's just there's parasites all over the place between wasps and flies and everything else. You never know what's coming in from the outside.
Yeah, somebody told me the other day, and I was not aware of this. I did not research it to know if this is true, so maybe you guys would know. But somebody told me that uh, lightning bugs are extremely poisonous to some
Yeah,
reptiles.
they've got some mild toxin in them. Yeah.
Oh man, I used to eat those when I was a kid. I'm fucked.
Now we know what happened to you.
Yeah,
Explains a lot.
It is why you are what you are.
makes all the sense.
Fortunately, your kidneys will filter it out better than the reptiles will.
We just
So
wanted to
Jess,
see if we could poop glow in the dark poop. When we were kids, and it doesn't work like that.
we know it happens obviously with reptiles, but it's probably even worse with spiders. Do you get stigmatized because of it? Do people find out that you've got spiders and then now you're the weird spider girl?
Yeah, I mean, like, right? There's like, I always like to say, like, we're regular people, right? But like to other people, it's like,
We're
like
not.
you get labeled for sure. So like I even have captions like, "We are the weirdos, Mister." Um, but yeah, I definitely do. So like you'll see it all the time. Like even at shows, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's Jess, House of Le Spood, Spider Girl." So you definitely can't categorize. And then even like with people like let's say that don't keep reptiles or arachnids and stuff, like they'll be like, "Oh yeah, she has a bunch of spiders." Like even when introductions, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, she keeps a ton of creepy stuff at her house." So I definitely get that a lot. But I kind of enjoy it because I'm like it's something I like. And then I kind of get to talk about it, show my million pictures because I mean, all reptile and arachnid keepers have a million pictures of all of their pets, right? So,
If we have to look at other people's children, they have
right,
to look at our
exactly,
reptiles.
exactly. Like spiders are cuter.
It is it is funny too, like the what people envision in their head sometimes, and they're like, "Well, how many snakes do you have? Like five? Oh no, like a couple hundred." And they're like, "Just like everywhere, all over in your house?" Yeah, they're just loose. They free roam, a couple hundred of them. They're just everywhere.
Or when you get the "I'm not coming to your house," then I'm like, "Oh, I didn't invite you," but
Yeah, good. Good. I didn't want you here, anyways.
that that's why I have 200 snakes, so you won't be in my house.
I always find it funny that I'm the weird guy at work working for a pest control company because I have species of cockroaches and spiders and reptiles. Like they even think I'm the weird guy, and they work with bugs and stuff all day long. It just doesn't matter. People always think you're the weird one.
yeah.
Yeah, but they're all spending 10 hours a day trying to kill them, and you're going home and feeding them.
I spend a fair amount of time killing them too, but there's what's beneficial and there's what's problematic. So
Yeah.
also know your enemy.
Yes, it is job research.
Uh-huh. Friends close, enemies closer, that kind of thing.
So, Jeff,
So,
go ahead, Mickey.
so how many jumping spiders come out? Do they call that an ooth whenever they do their eggs too, or
Just a
how's
sack.
that? A
Just an
sack,
egg.
yeah, sack.
So it just kind of depends because from each time you mate, you can get anywhere from 3 to 5 sacks, right, from one time mating.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of spread them apart when they lay. So, like, sometimes I'll have like a sack that has like 100 plus babies, right? And then I'll have some sacks that has like 2 babies. So it just kind of depends, honestly. Like, so it's just kind of like draw off the luck. Um, and also, I feel like it depends on like the spider, like the age. Like, if it's a little bit older, I feel like the sacks tend to be a little bit smaller. But even raising them up, like sometimes, like you're not obviously keeping all the clutch because it's not going to make it all the way through. So it just kind of depends.
I had another question too. So I see a lot of people making like custom houses for them, like you do. What are some things that like maybe people should shy away from putting inside of their custom enclosures? Like what kind of glue should they not be using? Stuff like that.
Yeah. So basically, what I always use Gorilla glue stick glue, just because it doesn't really have any fumes, and I always let everything air out even after it dries. But it dries pretty fast, doesn't have a ton of fumes. And it will actually stick because a lot of the times when they're using like regular glue sticks with the humidity and when you're misting, it'll eventually fall off. So a lot of the times what ends up happening is people just use like regular not Gorilla. If they use just regular glue sticks, it comes off and like your spider can potentially either die or get hurt from the fall. Like let's say it's on it or underneath. So I would suggest staying away from regular glue sticks. If you're going to use glue sticks, always use Gorilla Glue sticks. I do see that other people use different glues. I'm not typically comfortable with it just because some of the other glues people use, like obviously there's fumes. And then if you're going to put anything in your enclosure, like let's say you're doing one of the dollhouse enclosures, which is pretty popular with jumping spiders, I make sure to go ahead and like Mosh Posh everything that's dishwasher safe. So it's the specific dishwasher safe Mosh Posh, and it's the blue one. And then I actually leave it out for 2 weeks and like let it air out before I actually even use it in the enclosure with my spider. And what I do typically is like before I even put my spider in, I'll put a feeder in and see how the feeder does for like maybe 2 or 3 days before I put my spider in. So that's kind of just how I do it. So yeah, if you're gonna set wood or anything like that, do Mosh Podge dishwasher safe Mosh Podge. That's what I use.
Okay, that's cool. Super cool.
But one thing we like to ask all of the breeders and the vendors. So somebody who knows nothing about it, they decide, hey, I've fallen in love with these jumping spiders. Uh, we're gonna take the leap. We're gonna bring one home. What's the amount of money and what's involved with somebody jumping into it for the first time? Like, what would you set them up with, and how much money are they going to be out of pocket with to get started?
Yeah, so typically jumping spiders, depending who you get it from, right? Like if they're captive bred, if they're not, depending on age, things like that. Um, let's say for me, for example, like my jumping spiders, depending on which one it is, they can range anywhere from $40 to $50. So that's just for the spider itself. Now, for an enclosure, it depends if you want to get fancy or not. So me personally, I do have some enclosures that I've like made, like ventilations and things like that, like so those like I can do like $30 for some of those enclosures, but for the most part, I feel like if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it right, right? So I use a ton of tarantula cribs when I sell my jumping spiders. So like I'll put them on the table, and I'll kind of set them up. So you get the two different options because there's people that like bioactive and want to deal with it, and then there's people that don't want to deal with it and rather do like the dollhouse features. So like typically for like a bioactive, depending on the size, like that I recommend for my jumping spider will be like $60. The fancier ones, like my most expensive one's probably $90. So that's just for the enclosure. And then the feeders, like what I typically feed will be like mealworms. And then for like a treat, we can do like some wax worms, some hornworms. So I'm gonna say like all in all, like for jumping spider enclosure and like some feeders, I'd say like you're kind of like 150, 170 the most out of
Right.
pocket.
So somewhere between essentially 75 and $150. If
Yeah.
they went bare bones, they could do it for 75. But yeah, most people are going to want to at least add a little bit to it.
Yeah, and it also just kind of depends. So like I won't sell anything younger than I6. So like let's say I give you an I6 spider. I put them in like little enclosures that they come in. So you can keep your I6 in there for a couple of weeks before you have to switch them out too, like in case you have to wait. So like I'll make sure they have like a cute little like setup instead of like the little deli cups. I'm not a fan of the deli cups for them, just because in case like let's say someone's buying a spider, right, and you don't necessarily have the funds right away to get something you'd like, you can keep them in there for a few weeks before you have to switch them out.
How long does typical jumping spider live?
So females live 2 to 3 years and males live 1 to 2 years typically. No, not too
It's
long,
kind of like
unfortunately.
having pet rats. It's like they're amazing, but it's just sad that they don't stick with us too long.
Yeah, not a super long lifespan, unfortunately.
So you mentioned I6. For like the layman folks, I'm sure that means Instar 6. So what are you looking at time wise for your Instars to go from a Yule up to I6 where you're selling them at?
So typically I'll have them for about 6 months before I sell them.
So they're molting out roughly monthly then.
About monthly. It also depends on how much you're feeding. I feel like if you feed a little bit more, they'll molt a little bit faster. But typically, like I like to stick to feedings about 3 to 4, every 3 to 4 days with my spiders. So typically, I'll have my babies for about 5 to 6 months before I'm comfortable selling them. Because if it's anything below I6, I'm just not comfortable with it. Just because a lot of the times, like let's say it's a first time person that's keeping like a jumping spider or just arachnid in general, right? Um, I feel like it's a little bit harder to deal with the babies because a lot of times they're eating like fruit flies, things like that, like soldier fly larvae. Um, and like anything can happen, I feel like, between those instars. So for me, I just feel better about me selling something to a customer that I know is healthy, like I've gotten them to that point where they're perfectly fine. I know that they're okay, because between those instars, I feel like anything can kind of happen. Especially like if you're over misting or maybe you're not misting enough. A lot of times people think that they'll need a water dish and they don't, because they actually drown in the water dish. Um, so different things like that. With the males, they tend to be a little bit picky eaters between those instars too. So a lot of times, like the males won't necessarily make it if it's someone that hasn't had a ton of experience, because different tricks go to it, right? Like sometimes with the males, like they need a little bit more sunlight to cheer them up and kind of encourage some feeding. A lot of times, like I'll have to actually take like a wax worm or a mealworm, cut it in half, and kind of squish out the guts and rub it on the shells to kind of entice them to feed. Sometimes some of the spiders are a little bit different food motivated, right? So like instead of like a mealworm, waxworm, or even a cricket, they'll prefer like a blue a bottle fly. So like they'll prefer to actually hunt and chase it down. So it just makes me more comfortable to sell by that time. I
Yeah, it
know,
makes
like,
sense. It's thriving at that point, and there's some leeway if the new keeper makes a mistake, they're not
yeah.
just instantly gone.
Yeah, it's kind of like when people do snakes, right? Like they want to make sure they have like those sheds in, and that they've eaten a certain amount of times before they're like happy enough to like actually sell them or comfortable enough. So for me, like I keep myself at that standard just because I want to make sure that I'm setting, my spider up to successfully live a full life, and also like the customer is happy with what they're getting. I don't want to just like sell things to just sell them. Like it's like a life I'm dealing with, right?
Well, yeah. So, and I see that a lot. Like, we catch people doing that. They'll try to sell like itty bitty bearded dragons, hatchling crested geckos, snakes that have only eaten like once. And it's like, come on, guys, have some standards. Like, you're going to send this animal home with a brand new keeper, and it's going to die because they don't know what they're doing. And you just totally shot somebody out of this whole hobby, because generally what happens if somebody takes an animal home and it dies, they're like, I'm out. Like it just totally shuts them off from keeping reptiles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
I
that's
agree.
that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves is people selling animals that they're just not ready. And it's like, don't be greedy. Just because it hatched 2 weeks ago does not mean it's ready for a new home. So I really appreciate that you do that and take the time to grow those out like that.
Yeah, I feel like as a whole, like, right, like community is like a big thing for me, right? And then also, I don't feel like I like that we necessarily sometimes get a bad rep and things like that. And again, like I feel like sometimes people like that are money motivated, they don't think about that. But for me, like I got into it because I love these animals and they're my pets, right? And like even like my moms and stuff that like I have in my nursery, those are like my spiders. They all have individual names. They have like little homes here. Like I play with them, I socialize them. So to me, it's like I'm just not gonna like sit here and like set someone up one to fail, and I'm also not gonna sit here and just not care about like the spider's life. So I think it is important, just because yeah, I do see the same thing sometimes. Like I'll see some jumping spiders that are like seriously so small, and I'm like, I don't know, like 50% of the time it's not going to make it, so why would you do that? Or like when people don't even give out any like instructions with their animals, like I literally have a 3 page instruction like guide, basically like care guide for my spiders when I like sell my spider. Even if it's someone that is experienced and says they have jumping spiders, I'm like, well, just so you have it as a backup, like here's my care guide. And I know like 3 pages is excessive, but I really spent a lot of time sitting there, like when I first got into like spiders, what were some of the questions that came up in my head? What were some of the things that I even went back? Like I even went back and looked at like what I asked breeders when I first bought some of my spiders. And I kind of put that all into like the pages, and like you'll literally see my guide, and it's like bold, like the question, and then like different things like that. So it's like 3 pages, and I just like to make sure I set up everyone. And I'm pretty big on like, even after I sell the animal, like message me if you have any questions. Doesn't matter time or day or night, like, and I'll respond to you as fast as I can. um so yeah, I mean, I just think it's important. Like I like to stand by like what I'm putting out, and because it's not just like a business for me, right? Like it's what I enjoy doing. It's what I like, and I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
awesome that you take the time to do that.
It's always funny when I get new people, friends of mine or whatever, that show up to the reptile shows and they go through and they look at stuff. So a lot of times they're not even necessarily interested in actually buying anything. They just want to come check it out because I advertise the crap out of it all the time. And they see the price of some of the animals there, and they're like, these guys are making bank selling these animals. I'm like, these folks, most time, they're not making bank. I mean, the amount of work that goes in to take care of these animals 24/7, 365, hauling to these shows, advertising them online, all that stuff. The overhead profit margin is not great. This isn't something you get into for money. Like, it is not a get rich quick scheme by any means.
At
It
The
just
amount
all.
of,
go by my feeders once a week if you want, and you'll know who's making bank and who's putting it out.
yeah,
Yeah, especially if you're keeping them for a while too. Like, I mean, even with like, okay, like the jumpers, right? Like, I'm keeping them for 6 months. They eat every 3 to 4 days, right? And then imagine like just from one sack, I have 100 babies, like on top of like my regular stuff. Like, it's a lot, and it takes a lot of time because like I have my regular job, right? And then I'll like do everything else. So it's like I'm up at all hours of the night sometimes, like making sure everyone's fed, misted, like taken care of, like, or even like when you're getting ready for shows, like you guys know, like at the expos, like prep for expos is a lot. The travel there, like set up everything, like make your booth nice, like I don't know if you guys ever seen my booth, but like, yeah, a lot of time and effort goes into it.
I like your background. You have the green stuff back there and the neon light.
Yeah, and then I just like last Tinley, I did like a whole vision board, right, for end of 2023 for 2024, what I was going into. So Tinley, that just happened, I just built out a lot of like what I did for my vision board. So I have like this huge shelf that has all of like my enclosures on it displayed with like lights and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's super cool.
So, what is the how is the breeding process with them? Are they vicious? I know a little bit about watching some people breed tarantulas, and I know some of those. It's a very delicate, dicey process.
it's it's kind of similar with tarantulas. So I mean, it's kind of weird, right? You have to like sit there and watch them do the do.
Yeah,
So, usually I always make sure mine are very well fed before going into it. Um, and then basically I'll house them not in their enclosure. I'll have like a separate enclosure that I can put them in and kind of just watch them and make sure. So like the male will go ahead and tap and do kind of a dance for the girl, and then they'll kind of see if like she's receptive. If she's receptive, they'll go ahead and do the do. A lot of times I'm just kind of watching with like a soft brush to see if like the female's getting a little bit too rough, and then I like separate them because I don't want to lose a male in the middle of it, because again, like these are my pets to me. um so I haven't had any losses thankfully yet during the mating process, but that's kind of what it's like. And then typically like with the females, they'll lay a sack. I mean, they can kind of hold it right up to a year, but typically with mine, what I've had luck with is within a couple weeks to like maybe a month and a half, they're laying a sack for me. So it's not too bad of a process, but you do want to keep an eye out to make sure that the female doesn't get too rough or potentially kill your male.
makes
yeah.
sense. Then, when they give you the sack like that, what would you say approximately? What percentage of them do you get to survive to that 6 month point that you can sell?
I'm gonna say about like 80% of them. When I first started, it was a lot rougher. I will say that. Like I was probably like maybe 50%. As time has progressed, I'm gonna say like 80, sometimes 90%. It just kind of depends. I mean, they typically have pretty big sacks, so like you're gonna have some losses. But yeah, typically about like
Yeah,
80%, I'm gonna
that's
say.
pretty impressive. But I'm sure in nature it's probably 10%. They end
Yeah.
up being somebody else's food in a heartbeat.
And they're so small when they're born. Like I don't know if like people have actually like when they're first like coming out of that sac, it's crazy how small they are. So you really got to like watch out for them. So once they come out, you separate them, right? I typically will keep them all together. Once they start reaching about like I3, I4, I'll go ahead and start separating all of them. But that's typically what I do.
What do you feed them as newborns?
So I'll do the fruit flies. The melon. I don't know how to say them. Melon. But they're like,
Flabbergasters.
there you go. So I'll do that. Or what I typically like to do too will be like the soldier fly larvae. But I'll make sure I get the really, really, really tiny ones because a lot of the times what will happen is they'll go ahead and the little ones will like kind of share one of those and eat from there. So sometimes I feel like with those I've had a little bit more of a success rate than with the fruit flies because sometimes they're a little bit intimidated by the fruit flies, even though they're not like they're almost the same size as them, right? Um, and typically, like a spider can take up to a certain amount bigger than them and hunt it. But sometimes, for some reason, they're intimidated by the fruit fly. So with the soldier fly larvae, they tend to not be as intimidated. So I feel like I've definitely had more of a success rate feeding some of my babies those as they're getting older. And then, like I said, they kind of share and will eat some of those. I've had to cut some up sometimes too in case they're a little bit too big, and they'll eat from there.
It's cool. Where can people find you online if they want to take a look at all of your work?
Yeah. So I mainly post on Instagram. So Haus Of Le Spood is going to be my Instagram. I also have a Facebook page, which is going to be Haus Of Le Spood. And I'm typically at any show, and I always post up my schedule there as well. Um, so I do other state shows, not just in Chicago.
So I don't think I've seen you at any of our shows. When's that going to happen?
So it's gonna happen soon. I was actually talking to Brady about that. I was trying to see what show Mickey's gonna catch me at, and you guys are gonna catch me at next. I took a little bit of a hiatus break for a couple months. I'm getting back into it now. Yeah.
Okay, so
So hopefully soon.
we got Janesville coming up here in July 6th. That's fairly close to you. We got Bloomington, Illinois coming up. I believe that's August.
Okay.
August.
Yeah,
Fort Wayne might be a good trip. That show seems to be taking off.
Okay.
it really is. And there's not many invert people at Fort Wayne, if I remember right. So
And there's also South Bend and Indiana that's getting ready to pop up there. We
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
we're closing in on Chicago a little bit.
Okay, that's good. I mean, like, I don't mind traveling either. Like, I've traveled to Texas and things like that for shows.
Well,
Um,
Virginia Beach is coming up soon.
yeah, August 3rd and
that would
4th. That's a destination place for you.
Yeah, that would be nice. Nice little vacation while I'm there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's the
don't.
point. That's our beach show.
You have Tennessee shows too, right? I love Tennessee. I gotta
Oh
go.
yeah,
Yeah, we got
Murfreesboro, Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Nashville. You've got options all over Tennessee.
Probably Chattanooga.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Just check out that website. We got all kinds of options for you.
And I'll definitely reach out for Mickey to see which show I'll go to next. But you'll definitely catch me at one of the shows.
Heck yeah.
here in the very near future, Jess, you're going to be able to sell on Marketplace too.
Oh, okay.
Like maybe tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see.
Just wait on that web team.
Definitely let me know. That's exciting.
Don't worry, everybody's going to know. They're going to get annoyed with me. It'll be fine.
Yeah, once it finally launches, it's going to be all hell's going to break loose with the advertisement.
Yeah, I cleaned up my desk in my office because I'm going to be living here for a while.
Well, at least you have some enclosures in the background and some company to keep you.
Those are called distractions. Whenever I get tired of working, I turn around and play with a lizard or something. Yeah.
They're the best coworkers. I usually keep my beardy like right here and like sunbathes on my desk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're quiet for the most part.
Quiet and lazy, that's for sure. Yeah, because my office is like in my sunroom, so I get a ton of like natural light. So I'll put like my beardie out, like little couch or little rug thing here, and just like laser while I'm working.
Oh, that's great.
My bumblebee toads are my desk pet, just because they walk around all goofy all the time.
Which ones?
Bumblebee toads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Tiny old dudes. They don't hop. They just walk around all goofy, looking all chubby.
I love that.
Super entertaining. Just watch wander around.
Kind of like the rain frogs when they dig themselves out and they walk around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if those things even survive in the wild.
Yeah, I feel like the bumblebees are like a mix between the rain frogs and dart frogs.
I like the chubbies. Have you seen the chubbies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are funny.
Like I need more frogs.
Yeah. You've got frogs coming in tomorrow, Scott, actually, so don't forget that.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the best when you get new stuff at the shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a kid at the candy store. That's how I feel. We got a bunch of stuff today, and I was like, ooh.
That's the problem with going to shows every weekend.
Yeah, it's hard to go to shows and not come home with something new. I don't think I've ever successfully gone to a show and not come home with a new pet.
Yeah, every once in a while when I go to one and come home without something, I feel like somebody should be giving me a medal. Hey, good job. Great willpower, buddy.
Like you get the sarcastic round of applause. Like, good job.
Mm-hmm. I know. The last Springfield show, I was like, I'm not getting anything. I don't need anything. We're good. And then the bumblebee toad showed up. And then there's that Chuck Wall with the screwed up tail that she's like, I just really need someone that's going to take care of it well because it's messed up. No one's going to buy it. She's like, but I know you'll take care of it. I'm like,
Yes,
you're right. Yes, I will.
Yeah, you're like, I don't have one of those yet.
Correct. It's right in my wheelhouse, and I don't have one. So, little crooked tail guy, you're coming home with me.
I like your hat, Scott.
Oh, thank you. I think you buy them on our website still.
Making reptile shows great.
I need to get some more of those made. I didn't think that I was going to sell any of those. Like, I didn't think anybody was going to like them. And I've sold hundreds of them since I started.
Oh, yeah. They're a hot item. Probably the number one merch item I've sold off our table.
Yeah.
That and the Rainforest Show Me shirt.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what is that. And then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes people don't like read all of it and they think you're just wearing like a Trump hat, so they'll start like shooting dirty looks. Like, come on, just read. It's okay.
Just read the whole thing. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to read what it said. And then I was like, oh, okay.
And my old roller derby team did the same thing. It was just make roller skating great again.
It's pretty smart, though. But I mean, like, it's work in progress, right? With all the shows, making them great.
It grabs attention. Doesn't always grab good attention, but it grabs attention.
You know, it's definitely eye-catching.
Mm-hmm.
I thought a guy was going to fight me in Atlanta airport whenever I was wearing that hat because he was just like mad dogging me like crazy. And I'm just like, here we go. And he just gave me a dirty look. I was like, whatever. Be ugly.
Read the whole thing first.
Yeah.
It's got a snake on the side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. It's the logo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a Show Me logo there.
Got it, yeah.
So we only have Kansas City this weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Blue Springs, Kansas City.
Yep.
Scott, I think you're training new coordinators this weekend, aren't you?
Yep. Train Loki there. One of our shop employees.
Yeah, cross training.
Yep.
Building that great coordinator team. Actually, we've got a coordinator meeting after this.
Yep.
Work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stay on the phone. So I got this thing hooked up with the charger because I know it's going to be a while.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long meeting.
And the following weekend, we've got what? Is that Utah is then?
Utah, 2 North Carolina shows, Hickory and Durham.
Yeah.
Something else? There's something else.
There's something else. No, there's more.
Davenport.
Yeah.
Is Davenport next
Sorry,
weekend?
I believe so, yeah. I'm sorry, Davenport. I didn't mean to forget you.
I still feel like there's something else. I feel like we're forgetting something.
I hope not, 'cause it's what's on my schedule.
What about Colorado Springs?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, Jacksonville, Florida.
Ew. Okay.
Yeah, Hickory's actually the weekend after that, the 29th. Is
Okay, that's
Okay,
why you
that's
threw a
it.
ring.
Hickory in Colorado Springs.
I was like, shit, I don't have staff for that. What's going on?
Yeah. That's why I was panicking too.
It's like, Scott, we have to have
Sometimes
another
it
meeting
kind of
next
all
week.
starts to run together.
It's so much. It's the fact that we keep adding shows midway through the year too.
Hey, don't judge me.
It'd be like that.
As long as I know they're happening.
Right. It's like, surprise.
I just gotta, hey, we're adding this show location. Cool. When? I'll let you know when the contract's signed. Cool. Hey, there's a contract signed? Yeah, it's next weekend. Oh.
Oh,
Cool.
you're on it.
That never happens. But
All right.
Well, that's
Yeah.
exciting to be Colorado Springs added on there. Such a beautiful
Yeah.
town.
I wish it wasn't busy season or I'd be heading down there myself to do it, but my day job keeps me too busy this time of year.
yeah, I think I'm going to try and get us back into Grand Junction. I know a lot of people are asking us to come out to Denver, but I know that there's already an expo out there, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I like Colorado. It's nice out there.
It's super
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
We got it in its own show.
Colorado Springs is only an hour from Denver, though, isn't it?
It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Somewhere like that. I remember we used to be in Pueblo, and that's like 30 minutes from there, and that was all bad.
Yeah. Some shows hit, some shows don't. You just gotta find
And-
your reptile folks.
Oh, yeah. People are very picky on where they're going to travel to. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, we keep getting the requests about Grand Junction, but we got to find a new venue there, right?
Yeah, I found one. They're really bad at communicating. Like with a lot of venues, they just don't communicate very well. Some of them you can call them and have a contract and dates and everything done within an hour, and then others it takes like months. So
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You would think that, if that's your job, you would be really good at helping to sign people up to come to your facility.
well, sometimes it's hard to find people that actually do their jobs. So
No.
no way.
I think this is true in every field.
Yeah. So much.
We're pretty lucky though. We've got a really good team here, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
I feel like we've really leveled up in the last 3 months.
To the moon, buddy. To the moon.
The quality of the people that we've picked up and some of them that we've lost, it's been a good thing. I feel like we've really, really improved the team a lot over the last few months.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're definitely not the same group of people that were around a year or two ago, so things have grown and changed a lot. Sorry, I'm playing with this frog that I got from the show, the rain frog guy.
Let's play that right in the microphone.
Yeah.
For all the folks listening with headsets.
Yeah. But all right, well, I mean, anybody got anything else for Jess?
No, I think that's it. We've got our meeting coming up here shortly after this podcast, but we usually try to keep it under an hour anyway. So it's been a pleasure to have you, Jess. We appreciate it, and we hope that we're going to see you at several of our shows in the very near future.
Well,
If not, we'll see you at Schaumburg.
Yeah, I'll definitely be at Schaumburg getting ready for that one. But I definitely will check out some shows and travel out to go to some of the Show Me shows for sure.
Heck yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us. Have a great night.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jess.
Bye.
Bye.